Hello, everyone. Welcome to Chapter 9 Global Population and Mobility. And this time, we will focus our mind on the topic Global City. So, the learning outcomes of this chapter is to identify the attributes of global city and to analyze how cities serves as engines of deglobalization. Before we start our discussion, let us do this brain exercise first. So I will show you pictures and you will identify what are these cities, okay? So first picture, what place is this? So this place is famous for anime, electronics, manga, and video games. If you answer Tokyo, your answer is correct. Next, this one. This place is famous for its richness, its glitzy and innovative development of architecture, and it has shopping scenes. If you answer Dubai, your answer is correct. Next, the iconic red bus. If you answer London, your answer is correct. Next, the Merlion, the Marina Bay Sands. Which place we can see this? If you answer Singapore, then you are correct. Now, if you had a chance to move in those cities, which of those cities you want to move in? Some might answer Tokyo, London, Singapore, or Dubai. But I know mostly will answer Seoul, Korea. No? Because nasi upadad to. So, in accordance of our discussed topic, what are these places become so considered in a global city? Why they are important? But first, let us now define the term global city. A global city is also known as world city, alpha city, or world center. The existence of a global city has a direct and tangible effects on the international affairs through socio-economic measures. So, in geography, the global studies of globalization refers to the largely created, facilitated, and enacted strategic geographic areas based on the significance of the global system of finance and trades. So global city accommodates the world in the bounded space. Inevitably, there are global problems, hostilities, and injustice that transpired out of global city. So originally, the term of global city was mega city, and it was later changed to a global city because of sociologist Saskia Sassin in her 1991. So, sociologist Saskia Sassin popularized the term global city in the 1990s. So, she initially identified three global cities. Those are New York, London, and Tokyo. And according to Sasson, for what makes up a global city is were primarily economic, which has connected to economic aspects such as how developed a certain place is. So these cities that Sasson identified, they are the core or center of global finance and capitalism around the world. That is why they are considered as the home of world stock exchange. So global city is the center of different globalizing forces where there exists population concentration and mixing. The intertwined flows of people, capital, and ideas are lived and experienced by in a global city. So the concept of a global city is a phenomenon which was preceded by the idea of the world city is originated as early 1927. This is considered as the centers of imperial power or free cities, the crossroads of international merchant routes which prevailed since ancient times. Always remember, not only Tokyo, Dubai, London, and Singapore can considered as global city. Also those cities that somehow na nag-process, nag-develop while it lasts, they will be considered as part of global city.
Good day, everyone. So I am Mary Adeline Silarica, and let's just continue our discussion for today. So, cosmopolitanism. What is cosmopolitanism? It is best described as larger diverse cities that attract people and material and cultural products worldwide. So, so, oh sorry. So according to Zikin, 1998, cosmopolitanism is associated with capitalist setting, which focuses primarily on consumption and is heavily impacted by commercial culture, retail, and shopping. These are also influenced by a diverse range of cultural foods, fashion, entertainment, and other artifacts. For a moment. Okay, let's continue. An important characteristic of a global city is the presence of cosmopolitan variety of cultural products, which satisfy the cross-cultural curiosity of people. The cosmopolitan consumption in all its richness and variety that a global city can offer requires time and money. So, foreigners in a global city are consistent people who are completely dedicated to the city's cosmopolitan consumption. This hypermobile annuality is known as an overseas holiday, as said by Featherstone, 1998. Next, we have the global city is both a dream and a nightmare. Though it is a huge source of attraction to migrants and tourists, this can also be a source of inequalities and inequities. Global cities are the epicenter of innovation, creativity, and production, as well, but it is also as causes social ills of many kinds. We can see that there are people in these cities, these global cities, are living a high life, of very living a high life, professionals with richer pastures, but the marginal residents are very plainly evident. The globalization and paradigm evolved since the 1980s, and it has developed conceptual and ideological disputes. Every global city is also a national city, which oftentimes goes beyond the host nation. The importance of nation states can be discounted. However, the impact of global macro processes in the everyday lives of the people is also increasing. Roderick Mackenzie, a Chicago academician, proposed the concept of a global city in 1927. This is regarded as imperial power center or free cities at the crossroads of international commercial routes that have existed since ancient times. Saskia Sassen from 1991 identified only three global cities, namely New York, London, and Tokyo. The decision was primarily motivated by economic considerations. Global cities, according to Sassen, are command centers, the major nodes of triumphant global capitalism. He believed that the more globalized the economy gets, the greater the concentration of core functions in a small number of locations. Zukin, however, places also New York and London, but not Tokyo. He replaces Tokyo with Paris at the top of the urban cultural hierarchy of cultural innovations. Global cities are no longer tagged as landscapes of production, but rather as landscapes of consumption. Knowledge workers are not necessarily part of the core wealth and power elite of global capitalism, but these are globally mobile. career minded middle class. Gentrification is referred to as the process of social class polarization and residential segregation of the affluent from the poor. Abstract items such as financial instruments, knowledge, and culture are becoming increasingly important. This is best defined as a symbolic or service economy with social turn. At the beginning of the 20th century, just 5% of New York citizens presented global cities, which climbed to 30% by the late 1980s. According to colleague Pacer, around 2010, these knowledge workers are not necessarily part of global capitalism core, wealth, and power elite, but rather a globally mobile, career-minded middle class. Their increasing presence in global cities, in tandem with removal of industry and its working class, has resulted in the gentrification of once industrial inner city areas throughout the ages. According to Sassen in 1991, global cities invariably result in occupation and economic polarization. Author and for a moment. Okay. Author and Co. 2006 said that global city labor markets are becoming an hourglass shaped with a hollow center, as seen by the polarization of housing markets. Zong Clark and Sassen in 2007 used census data to support their claims that income polarization is common in big gateway cities. So that is all about um, the cosmopolitanism, and we'll be now moving on about the characteristics of a global city. Thank you.
Characteristics of a global city. The importance of characteristics of the global city is the presence of cosmopolitan variety of cultural products which satisfy the cultural curiosity of the people around the global city. So the first characteristics is that it involves cultural diversity, cosmopolitanism, movement of people, capital, ideas, and creativity, imagination and urban consciousness, and symbolic productivity. So this means that it involves cultural diversity that refers to the different beliefs of the people and respecting each other's differences. And cosmopolitanism or cosmopolite refers to the all human beings are the members of single community, and the movement of people, capital, ideas, and creativity. Imagination and urban consciousness is refers to the city's awareness and symbolic productivity. So the second characteristic is there is creativity, fluidity, and productivity. So this means that the people of a global city has the creativity, the fluidity, and productivity towards the city. So the third one is it is opposed to the methodological nationalism. That means disagreeing the methodological nationalism. That means to assume that the nation states of natural, social, and political form of the modern world, where the nation states serves as container, which are too static and bounded. So the fourth one is it is primarily economic, financial versus geopolitical, cultural, and environmental experiences. So it means that it is the mainly economic, financial versus geopolitical, cultural. That means security and defense, and having the positive environmental experiences of the people in a global city. So that's it for the characteristics of a global city.
So, good day everyone. My name is Helen Rendon and I will be tackling about the significant features of a global city. So, the first one, the geographic dispersal of economic activities that marks globalization along with the simultaneous integration of such geographically dispersed activities is a key factor feeding the growth and importance of central corporate functions. So the more dispersed a firm's operations across different countries, the more complex and strategic its central functions. That is the work of managing, coordinating, servicing, financing a firm's network of operations. The second one, the central functions become so complex that increasingly the headquarters of large global firms outsource them. They buy a share of their central functions from highly specialized service firms. So it example of this is the accounting, the legal, public relations, programming, telecommunications, and other such services. Thus, while even 10 years ago, the key site for the production of the central headquarter functions was the headquarters of a firm, today there is a second site, the specialized service firms contracted by headquarters to produce some of the central functions or components of them. This is especially the case with firms involved in the global markets and non-routine operations. But increasingly, the headquarters of all large firms are buying more of such inputs rather than producing them in-house. So, the third one, specialized service firms engaged in the most complex and globalized markets are subject to agglomeration economies. So, the complexity of the services they need to produce, the uncertainty of the markets they are involved with, either directly or through the headquarters for which they are producing the services, and the growing importance of speed in all these transactions is a mix of conditions that constitutes a new agglomeration dynamic. The mix of firms, talents, and expertise from a broad range of specialized fields makes a certain type of urban environment function as an information center. Being in a city becomes synonymous with being in an extremely intense and dense information loop. So, the fourth one, headquarters outsource their most complex and standardized functions, particularly those subject to uncertain and changing markets. The freer they are to opt for any location because less work actually done in the headquarters is subject to agglomeration economies. So this further underlines that the key sector specifying the distance or the distinctive production advantages of global cities is the highly specialized and network services sector. The very common notion is that the number of headquarters is what specifies a global city. Empirically, it may still be the case in many countries that the leading business center is also the leading concentration of headquarters, but this may be because there is an absence of alternative location options. But in countries with a well-developed infrastructure outside the leading business center, there are likely to be multiple locational options for such headquarters. The fifth one, specialized service firms need to provide a global service, which has meant a global network of affiliates or some other form of partnerships. And as a result, we have seen a strengthening of cross-border city-to-city transactions and networks. So, at the limit, this may well be the beginning of the formation of transnational urban systems. The growth of global markets for finance and specialized services, the need for transnational servicing networks due to sharp increases in international investment, the reduced role of the government in the regulation of international economic activity, and the corresponding ascendance of other institutional arenas, notably global markets and corporate headquarters. All this point to the existence of a series of transnational networks of cities. Number 6, the economic fortunes of these cities become increasingly disconnected from their broader hinterlands or even in their national economies. So, we can see here the formation, at least incipient, of transnational urban systems. To a large extent, major business centers in the world today draw their importance from these transnational networks. There is no such thing as a single global city, and in this sense, there is a sharp contrast with the erstwhile capitals of empire. The seventh, growing informalization of a range of economic activities that find their effective demand in the cities yet have a profit rates that do not allow them to compete for various resources with the high profit making firms at the top of the system. So informalizing part or all of production and distribution activities, including of services, is one way of surviving under these conditions. So that's the end of my report. So thank you for listening.
According to Longhorn in 2015, just as the great industrial cities grow from the industrial era, global cities are the product of the global economy. Any definition of a global city starts with its place in the larger global economy. Thank you.